Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. I hope you want to make a card with me today because I'm just going to pick away at this card I'm making for my daughter Maisie. It's her 18th birthday tomorrow. I did Lila's card and shared a video on that. I'm not sure if that video is up yet or if this one will go up first, but anyway, I had a bunch of different little things to do today, and I thought this would be a really fun project to work on while I'm puttering around. And I'm going to start off with a background of my card. You can use whatever stamps you have. In fact, probably a lot of these are discontinued because they are older. They're old favorites. This is one of my favorite script stamps. It's from 1998. It's by Stamp Francisco, and it's just it's a big thinking of you script. I love it that it's not super, and when you're picking a stamp to put in your collection like this, something like a basic. This is like your favorite pair of jeans. It's going to go with everything. Try to find something that's not super legible, because then you can use it for whatever occasion as a kind of a layering background stamp. Then I found this one from Hero Arts a few years ago. This one, I don't know the year, but it's called, oh, it just says design blocks. I don't see the name of the stamp on here. Maybe I'm just missing it. Variety and Quality. S5478. I just picked this up at AC Moore, I think, or Joann's. And I like that it's got this kind of classified advertisement print, so I think that would be good. And then I've got this one by Stampendous. Stampendous is like, they're not going out of business, but I think they're really scaling back. So I don't know if you'll still be able to find this one, but this is one of the Andy Skinner stamps, and I loved the just the postmark and the old-fashioned advertising. And then this one's by Ketzelcraft. So when you buy stamps you like, and this one's by the paper company, I think I got this at Joann's. When you buy stamps you like, you'll find that a lot of times they'll go together because you're being true to your style and not just jumping on whatever is popular bandwagon. So I love that I can use a stamp that's, you know, 25 years old with a stamp that's, you know, a year old. You know, I can mix these things in my collection and it works out really well. So what I want to do is actually stamp on my card base. I made this out of 120-pound accent opaque cardstock, and I want to actually stamp right on the base itself. So I've got a newsprint pad. This is just from the Dollar Tree. It's their kids newsprint sketch pads. So I mean, I bought this when it was $1, but you know, it's $1.25 now. But anyway, it gives you lots of sheets, and I use these when I want to do inking, when I want to do embossing. I'll reuse the sheets. This I'm using 2 fresh sheets, but I'll reuse those sheets again. And I'm doing that just because I don't want to get any ink transfer. Like, I'll use it for, like, I'll fold it up, use it for doing my embossing, I'll use it for testing stamps, I'll use it for inking edges, and I just keep these sheets around and I keep reusing them until they're so saturated they start transferring ink back onto my project. If you love the look of this, you could actually use good cardstock or a higher quality, like a photocopy paper, something acid-free. And then you can use them for backgrounds in your card projects if you like that look. Or you can even jelly print on them. So kind of think of that. Think if maybe your waste paper might have extra uses. I do like stamping on the pad here because it gives me a little bit of squish, which makes me have a better impression. So the ink I'm using is just like a tan color. This is Creamy Caramel by Stampin' Up. This is like a million years old. Whoops, hopefully my address didn't show there. Sometimes I'll put address labels on the back, and then I can, so then I'll share my ink pads with friends. I'll know whose ink pad it is. And I'm going to start with this, and I am just going to ink up the back of the stamp. This is the old style pad, the felt pad, so you don't want to do this with the new style pads or you will get ink everywhere. This is a hard pad. The new pads are squishy. And I've got a good inking there, and I am just going to stamp that down. I do use the, I will use the new inks. I will just use, well, actually I don't think I have any of their brand newer inkers, but I mean, I will use Stampin' Up! Dye-based reinkers and Memento dye-based reinkers. If a color goes discontinued and I can't get the color anymore, then it doesn't really matter. I'll just use, I'll use something that's close, but I believe I do have a couple of that reinker because I really like it. So when you have a big stamp like this, you really want to make sure you make contact, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to stamp on like a foam pad. Hopefully I get enough squish from this pad to give me a good impression, but I am giving it a really good push here because I want to make sure that I do have good contact, and because it's dye ink, I want to give it time for the stamp ink to transfer. And if it's not a perfect impression, that's fine too, because I'm going to be layering up stuff. Alright, I got a pretty good impression there. Now I'm going to go ahead and stamp this down probably a couple times. let's see. I like to overlap a bit, so I'm going to start up there, overlap, give it time to transfer. And then I think I will also do it again down here. I'm not going to worry about lining up my my letters. In fact, I might just overlap it a bit so I really don't worry about overlapping. Okay. I did though, look at that. They lined right up. I didn't intend to, but that looks all right. Then I'm going to see, oh, and like a stamp set like this actually has like a scripty background. You could have used that and just repeated it. That's totally fine too. But try to find stuff that you really like that you would definitely want to use again and again. Because stamps are an investment. They're, I mean, the way, I feel like the way that the stamping world is now, stuff is kind of like here today, gone tomorrow, but I really don't think that's a healthy way to look at this hobby. Finding stamps can be kind of like a treasure hunt, right? You find these perfect ones that really speak to you and then reuse them. Now this is going to be covered by other things. I'm not super concerned with how I'm arranging this here. I just want whatever of this background is showing to be pleasant and to have kind of like a fullness to it. And I really like that. My daughter loves anything like French themed, so I thought that would be really fun. Oh, I want to show you my stamp cleaner. You've probably seen this before, but this is an old baby wipes box, and which I've had since my son, who just turned 20, or is turning 20 next month rather. I had this baby wipes in this. So I put 2 paint edger pads. I just use foam tape to tape 2 paint edger pads in here. One I spray, I put some like soap on it at one point, and then I just spray this with water when I start a stamping session, and I leave this one dry and I clean up with that one, and then my stamp is clean and ready to go. So I just, you don't need to re-soap it up. I just have a spray bottle of water I spray on the wet side, but I've, you know, used soap on it before. So, and then when it gets really gross, I'll take it upstairs. I'll wash both sides with dish soap, and then I'll scrape it with an old credit card to get all the extra moisture out, let it dry. And then I'll just, I'll add some like soap to the wet side. And, you know, whenever I spray it with water, then it gets soaped up again. So it's good to go. And oh, when I'm doing the stamping, I tend to work big to little. So this is my biggest, most densest pattern. I put that first. Then I put my other big but less dense pattern, the script, next. And then I'm using some bigger stamps here. And then I'll fill in with some smaller stamps. So it's like putting rocks in a bucket. You got to start with your big boulders first, and then you can go with your smaller rocks, you know? Let's see. You know, I think I want that Chateau one. Now the thing with stamps is that they do get discontinued all the time. So if you do see something that you think you'll use over and over again, you know, you might want to grab it because stuff does get discontinued constantly. Unfortunately, I feel like that's used as a marketing ploy to get people to overbuy a lot. Do I want the cafe anywhere? Maybe I'll have that one kind of off the edge. Oh, let's clean that first before we get too... Clean as you go. That's another tip I would offer. I would offer you because you can get really, oh, you know what? Maybe I will overlap that. I have no idea if that part will show or not, because I'm probably going to have some sort of embellishment there. Yeah, that didn't really show. I'm going to do it again over here because I like that cafe. I think that stamping ink might be a little too light, but that's all right because I want it to be really, really soft and muted here in the background. And then let's look at that tiny set here. A lot of times I'll cut an end off just so I can slide it out so it's just kind of in a pocket. Gosh, there's some really good ones here. I don't know if that would be legible. If I could nestle it in between. Let's see if I can get the time to celebrate right above that line, the marking line on my stamp. Then I might be able to line it up a little bit better when I go to stamp it. Okay, this is time to celebrate. I'm able to put that right there. Hopefully the camera stayed in focus. Yeah. And you might be thinking, why are you doing all of this when you're just going to be covering this up? It just adds a dimension to it. It adds a really pretty dimension. So the next thing I want to do is I want to take a big ink brush here. That's another reason I like the big pads for the backgrounds and for inking, because I can go in and I can just go in and throw in some brushed color really easily. I know that might be pretty to have like a really pale rose color in here too. And this is almost going to give it the look of a patterned paper. So let's see what I have. Let's do sponge sugar. I think that would work. Or real rose if you had, like, I'm just thinking because I only have certain colors in large pads. Like I have a lot of Stampin' Up! Pads, but I'm sure a lot of the colors are discontinued. But there's one called like Regal Rose that's so pretty. And I'm not like I've never sold Stampin' Up! Or anything, but I did have a friend who used to. I had a couple friends that did actually, and I always enjoyed the products that I bought from there. So, and they've held up pretty well. So I have no complaints. No complaints with any of those products. It was the one home sales thing type of party that I would go to pretty much. All right, I'm just going to set that aside. I'm going to clean off my brush just by rubbing it on the scrap paper. I put a W on there. I use this for warm colors like browns, and then I have one that says cool, like browns, pinks, oranges, that sort of thing, just for like, but more neutral colors. And then I have one that's got a C on the back, which is cool colors, which I would use for like grays and muted blues and greens and things. Okay, I'm going to hit this real quick with my heat tool. And then the next thing I'm going to do is put a pretty rose gold border. Actually, it's kind of like I guess it's more of like a muted rose than rose gold. But I thought this would make a really pretty frame for everything I'm going to add on top. And I did this technique on my other daughter's card too, but I thought it was so pretty, I really wanted to do it again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take tape. This is double-sided tape. You could use a thinner one if you want, or a thicker one. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to put it down about a quarter of an inch from the edge. Actually, I think it's going to be just as easy for me to do all four sides at once. And actually, that will hold it down pretty well. And I mean, try to be pretty careful, but I don't think you have to worry about being absolutely perfect. But I think this would be something my daughter might actually like tack up on her bulletin board because she loves this kind of aesthetic. So I want to take my time on it. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is just press down the middle parts. And then I'm going to take a knife and I am going to cut. I'm going to try to cut through both pieces of tape without cutting the without cutting through the cardstock. So now let's see if I can get, yeah, there we go. And that will give us a nice little mitered corner. And that way we won't have a lot that we have to cut off. We'll just cut through there, and the only marks that would be on there would be where those two pieces meet, and you shouldn't have any weird bumps. So I think this is going to be a little bit better than how I did the other one. And I think having that background inked, it keeps the it keeps the tape from sticking out too firmly where you don't want it. Look at that. Look how neat that is. That way you only have to make one cut per corner instead of cutting there and cutting there. And you could save those little scraps and use them to adhere other parts of the card. I should have had like a little bit of a release paper. Did I cut my way through? Let's see. Oops, I don't think I quite got all the way through on the adhesive part. And this is a nice thick cardstock, so it's pretty easy. Even if I scored the cardstock itself, it shouldn't cut through to the inside of the card. That one's a little crooked. But then also it's going to meet up perfectly because you cut through both layers at once. There we go. Okay, we're going to use some foil for this, and I think I can set that aside now because we're done inking. And what I'm going to do is actually make this a little easier on myself and cut off a piece of foil. Oh, I can see I've got a piece there from where I had done this technique before. So what I'm going to do is actually cut it like this, and then I will wrap any leftover foil back around that tube. Foil will last you a long time when you do it just for like accent lines. And I never really got into the foil. Okay, now I can do this one piece at a time, which actually is probably going to give me a more uniform look instead of a distressed look. This will give me a really clean look, I think. And then it will preserve that mitered edge. It doesn't take a lot of pressure. Oh shoot, I did it on the wrong side. Oh no, you gotta do it with the color side up. Oh, teachable moment, guys. Oh darn. Oh no. Okay, don't do it that way. Oh shoot. Oh, I can't believe I made such a bonehead move. Oh no, I'm ripping my card base. Okay, yes, the colored side has to be up. Can you believe I just used this yesterday? All right, so I gotta put down another piece of adhesive. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I just did that. And, well, I think I can probably see enough through to cut just that. I think it's all right. Oh my goodness, guys, I can't believe I did that. All right, so this is not going to be as perfect as the other one because I actually, here we go. Good grief. Good grief, guys. Okay. Let's do that again, but the right way. All right, so what you want to do is you want to put the colored side up. I'm actually going to scooch it over a little bit. I cannot believe I did that. But maybe you'll remember and learn from my mistake. And look how beautiful that is. Okay, we're going to do that for each side. Oh, goodness. I bet some of you guys were yelling at the screen. Like, Lindsay, no! That's not the way to be. Did I get that over enough? I hope so. I think so. Oh, shoot. Got some wrinkles in there. Ah, well. They'll be distressed after all. That's alright. It's supposed to be vintage looking. Oh, that's pretty though. I like that. Okay. We're back on track. How to make a background in 20 minutes. The opposite of quick and easy. It's hard, slow, with lots of mistakes. Keeping it real. Ooh, I got that little sliver of backing. Did not come off there where I had to. So I made my error. Now here's what you do. If you find a place that didn't transfer very well, you just go around with that kind of waist area, the area where you know you didn't use every bit of your foil design. You just go through and press it anywhere you still see some adhesive, or you see an area where it didn't transfer. All right, now there's our background. I think that is a mighty fine looking background, don't you? All right, so I'm going to clean this up and we'll come back and work on some focal points. I just wanted to show you that I just cut off the strips where I had, and you don't have to do that, but where I had that adhesive stuck on the wrong side. I just cut off the good remaining foil because I tend to do this technique a lot. I'm just going to wrap it around, or you could roll it up and put it in the center of the tube. But I'm just going to wrap this around and put it right back in the package. And the package is, I just keep the same package they're sold in. This was a Heidi Swap, like one for the laminator, but it works great with adhesive too. And I just cut I cut one end off so I could easily slide it in and out. And these are in a shoebox with all my other foils. And yeah, I just wanted to share that with you in case you're wondering what I'm going to do or thought I was going to throw that waste away. It's like, no, there's plenty of good. I could do another couple cards with this technique with what was left on that roll, so, or on that cutoff piece. So yeah, just want to show you that. We'll be back with some focal point action in a minute. I know it doesn't look like I cleaned up, but I did. So I thought this would be a really pretty focal point, these peonies here. Oh, let's look that way so you can see. And then there's also this sentiment, wishing you the happiest of birthdays. I like that, but I also like this little postmark here. This says sending you birthday wishes. So I'm not exactly sure which one I'm going to use, but they're handy. I have them right here. I also chose some colors. Now, what I recommend doing is practicing on the paper you're going to use to color. I want to color with alcohol markers, and the thing with alcohol markers is you can mix brands. I have Copic and Blick Studio here for my pinks, and I just picked a dark, medium, and light, and make sure you swatch it out, because if you look at the swatches here, that Blick Studio Peach looks much lighter than the Copic Peach, but the Blick Studio Peach is actually much darker. The caps just don't match perfectly in any brand. And then I've got this light blush that I'm going to use as a highlight. So I'm putting them down like this on my work surface so that I know dark, medium, light. And then here I've got a Blick Studio Olive for my dark. I've got a Art and Fly 48GY green yellow for my medium, and I've got a old Premier design marker from Nicole in Fern. So you swatch them out, you make sure they're going to give you the blend you want, and then lay them out in order on your workspace so you don't get confused. Not too many colors here, I'm not too worried about it. Now I wanted to use like a Rolodex card. Now this is a Rolodex card I found, I don't know if you follow my channel for very long, but last summer at a yard sale I found tons of Sizzix dies and I bought this one. I thought that would be kind of cute here, but then actually my friend Kathy for my birthday just gave me the set of Rolodex dies, which does a couple other shapes, and I like that shape too. There's also this shape, which I think is a little too big for this card, and the other two shapes are also too big for this card, I think, but I'll show them to you. They're Heidi Swap dies. I don't know if they're still available, but they're kind of fun, and I like these shapes for like just doing something a little unusual. But I think for me, I need to either use the classic Rolodex size or this one right here with the notched edges, and I'm leaning towards that one just because I like the open space. So I think I'll do this. When you cut out a die, you'll have a front and a back. So the part with a blade on it, that's generally going to cut your front side, and that's going to give you a nice finished edge. So that's what I'm going to use. And I'm actually going to store all those pieces that I cut on this little Rolodex my friend Kathy gave me, because then I'll have just little cards ready to go anytime I want to test out a technique. All right, I'm going to put this right on my foam pad, and I'm going to be stamping on there, right directly on there. And I just think I wanted to do that because it's going to give me a really nice I'll be able to see exactly where my paper is, basically. So I think I'm going to line it up like that. And I'm going to stamp with Memento ink. Anytime I like to use alcohol markers, I like to use Memento ink. So here's a little tip. I'll like stamp. Make sure I get a good coverage. Then I do this little swirl. And I do this because I want to make sure that I'm covering everything. And these are photopolymer stamps. They take ink really well, but it can be really hard to see if your ink has gotten on there or not. I also will do like that just to make sure that the ink pad is nice and juicy. So my goal here is really good coverage. And this is a line artwork, so you know, it's a little forgiving. So again, it's dye ink, so I'm giving my ink time to transfer from the stamp onto my project. And there we've got a pretty good impression. It's not perfect, but it kind of fades in and out, but that's going to be fine because I'm coloring it. I'll be able to make it, you know, it's going to be fine. So some people will use a MISTI stamping tool, which they could keep stamping until they got it just right. I really like the spontaneity of having something like this where, you know, it's not perfect. It's imperfect. Now, remember how I told you you could use a script stamp here like we did the big text? Now, if you want to reuse the big text, that will look really good on top of there too. But I thought since I told you about using the script stamp like that, I thought it would be a good opportunity to show you what I mean. Now, if you want, you can actually hold this in your hand and just kind of stamp it in the areas you want to stamp it. So I'm going to show you that technique. So you just take your stamp. I'm again going to use Memento, Toffee Crunch. You could also use Desert Storm, any of those kind of tan colors. Because I want just a light impression. And then you can just kind of press it here and there. Actually, I think I've got this upside down, so it's a good thing I'm keeping it really, really random. I'm going to re-ink it. But this is a great way if you just want the image to kind of fade in and out, and maybe you don't want such a hard edge. So I bend it and I just kind of stamp just little pieces, you know, just for a little bit of a texture. But even if it does hit somewhere where I'm going to be coloring, it doesn't matter because I'm using that Memento. There. And then I think I will also just kind of ink the edges, both like that, to give a nice firm, defined edge. And again, it's the lighter color. I'm not using the darker color. The nice thing about that is if you do get a smudge, it's not going to really show. And I tend to have inky fingers, and I'm not the queen of perfection, so that works out well. And then I can take like maybe one of my smaller ink blending tools, like one of these guys. Might as well, because, you know, I bought these and then decided that I really don't like making cards at the moment. I was having a little fickle moment. I can use that and I can give it a little bit more of a little blush around the edges. It's meant for your finger to go in, but I find that if you have fingernails, and I don't keep mine very long, I find that it's almost easier just to hang on to it. But and another fun thing you could do, say you want to put like a little bit of color in the background, like maybe you want a little blue or something. This is how I store my ink pads, by the way. I just keep them like this because I tend to use these an awful lot. I like that sea gloss color, I think. Or maybe actually, that would be really nice, that really pale blue. I keep all the cubes in little trays like that in a little drawer because I find that I can like have that whole palette of colors out at once. I'm just going to go in there and blush in. And with a small little ink pad like this, you can do that. Or with a small little blender, you can use a bigger ink pad. Because I have so much brown and pink in the background, I thought having a little bit of this green would be nice. And I love the complex look you can get by layering up your inks, layering up your stamping. And the thing is, you use it, it gives you new looks for stuff that you already have. Okay, I think that is a really pretty little frame. All right, I'm going to bring back my, I'll bring back a smaller little pad here. I have no idea if I'll be able to keep this in focus. I'm going to zoom in though. And if it doesn't stay in focus, then I'll edit some more out, I guess. I'm going to set that aside and clean it later. So when I like to color, if I'm working with something that blends more difficultly, I will do the priming technique. So that's when I take my lightest color, which is blush. Doesn't matter what brand you use, just swatch your markers out and go for a color that looks good to you. So blush, that's my lightest color right there. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to prime an area. So I can actually go in and I can do this whole flower here because this is a pretty small one. And the cardstock I'm using is Nina Classic Crest Solar White, and the finish is super smooth. And I like that for blending, but honestly, you can use whatever smooth cardstock you have. Some will feather a little bit more and you'll have to color within the lines. Others have more sizing. Bristol is a great option for using alcohol markers. So I'll go and I'll prime it with this lighter color. Then I'll go in with my darkest color, and I'll go in, and I probably wouldn't do every petal. I probably just do a couple, the shadows on a couple petals. And then I go in with my medium color, blend it out a little bit, and then back in with my lightest and blend it all the way out. Now that's good for those bigger petals. When you get to the smaller petals, you can just kind of jump around a little bit more, but some of these larger ones will need a little bit more time. So dark, medium, we overlap the dark, bring it into the light area, and then blend it out the rest of the way with our lighter marker. And so if you were doing a flower that had really big petals, I would probably just do one petal at a time. Kind of like this. Say this was a really big flower. I hope this is staying in focus. I have no idea. So let's take this petal here. So I'm going in, oh, that's my medium. I'm going in my dark. I'm going to go in with my medium. Coloring right over the dark. Into the light area, then go back in with my light. There, and we're getting a nice blend there. I'm going to blend that out because I got some on the adjacent petal. So work to your comfort. If you feel like you need more time to blend, do one petal at a time. If you feel like you've got all the time in the world to blend, then you can do a couple petals at once. And I'm going to finish up this flower in that way, and then I'll show you another way to do the other flowers and buds. Okay, I'm going to show you another way to do your petals that I kind of talked about a second ago. And well, actually, I'm going to show you two different ways. So the first way, you got to be a little quick with, but and this is how we'll do our leaves. But what you'd want to do is you'd start with your darkest color, and you would go in and you would throw in the darks on a petal, and you generally would do one petal at a time with this motif, with this technique, because you need to keep the colors wet. So we go in with your shadow, and you would color your shadow a little bit further than you would want that color, and then we're going to overlap the edge of that color with your mid-tone, and then you're going to overlap the edge of that with your light tone, and see how that gives you a really beautiful blend. And you can see how it goes light to dark, but you don't see streaks in between. Hopefully the camera will focus on that. Okay, that is a little more advanced just because you've got to go kind of quickly. So let's do it one more time. Let's do it with this petal here. So I'm starting in with my darker color, and the darker is going to be what's down near the center in the, of the flower, and what is next to a petal that's overlapping, and I go a little bit further than where I want that dark color to be. Then with a medium color, I'm overlapping the edge of that color that we've just put down. We're overlapping the dark with the medium, and we're bringing it out a little bit more. And then with a light, I'm overlapping the edge of the medium and just bringing it out to the edge of the flower. And see, that gives us a really nice gradient of color. You can repeat it. If it's not smooth, you can go over it again and again until you get it just to the level of smoothness. Just keep in mind, if you oversaturate it, then you could bleed out into the other petals around. Pay no attention to my fingers, they're inky from another project. So we're gonna do that same technique for the greens. And so let's just do this leaf right here. I'm gonna start with my darkest color. And keep in mind, if you can try, and I recommend, like, before you go whole hog on any brand of marker, I recommend you try several brands. You know, get a couple from each brand and see what you like. You don't have to get the same colors. Obviously, they're not going to match identically anyway, but get a few different colors and see what you like. Well, that was really easy. That's a really easy way to do. Greens and yellows I find blend really easily. So this one right here, it's like I got petals stacked on top of petals. So I'm going to do this petal underneath with this darker green. And it's not a real big space, so I'm just going to do the darker green. I like the Blick Studio markers. They are a really great Copic alternative. If you're looking for something like that, they have the nice flexible Japanese nibs. And they sell refills, and they're quite a bit cheaper than Copic. They have gone up in price over the years, and the refills went up in price after Copic refills went up, so that's discouraging, but I still think they're a really good value, and they now have 144 colors, I think. I only have the original 96. I purchased them when they first came out. Oh, by the way, if you do this and as it starts to dry, you see that you wish your dark was darker, you can go back in and add some dark, and if it's still wet, you might not even need to blend it out. It will just kind of blend itself if it's still wet. If not, just go over with your colors as needed. I don't know why, greens, yellows, browns, they all blend. I think if it's a warmer undertone color, they tend to blend really well. So the technique works really well. Do it one more time. The same petal technique as these petals, we go in with our dark. We overlap our medium on the edge. Now, if you have a really stubborn color, you can go over the entire dark area with it. But I find that sometimes bleaches it out a little bit too much, and then you don't have the variety that you want. I'm just going to go ahead and do these stems with this lighter one. Just because usually stems, well, not always, but stems often are a little bit lighter, and plus this has a nice firm fine tip. I really like these markers. It's too bad that they no longer make them. They're very similar to the Prismacolor markers. And the other reason I say try a bunch of different kinds is because you may prefer the feeling of a round barrel or an oval barrel or a square barrel. We're all different. We all have different sized hands. We all have different, things that make us comfortable. There are markers out there that have a triangular barrel you might prefer. There's markers that have tinier nibs, firmer nibs, softer nibs. We're all different. So any of the well, actually, I'm not sure if Prismacolor is going to keep doing open stock, but most of your art markers that are by kind of famous companies that do other types of art supplies will have open stock available, which means you can just order one. That's how I got my Prismacolors. I kind of researched different markers, and I decided that Prismacolors with the best value at the time, and so I went on Blick and I just ordered a bunch of the pale colors, and then I used them with my Bic Markets, honestly, my Sharpies, until, and I used those lighter colors to blend things out. I think there's a leaf in here, so I'm just going to go in and put that in with that darker color because it's kind of underneath everything. And then I blended it in with the other colors that I had, and then as, I started to use up the cheap Sharpies and Bics, then I started to invest in invest in more. And then I got Copics as a gift from my mom. So, and then like they all work well together, so it's not like I had to get rid of any because I switched to a different brand. They all work well together. There's a lot of people out there that say you should only, you know, use Copics. You should start with Copics, and that's where you should be. But I don't buy that. I think there's so many really good options. These petals are so smooth, small here that I can just kind of jump around. Oops, I get confused by the cap. That cap looks so much darker than this one, but that's not how it. That's not how it is. There, that ink in that marker is lighter than the cap, and the ink in this marker is darker than the cap. So. A little confusing. If you have a lot of little petals like this, you probably could just leave your markers uncapped as you're working. Just don't like go away and leave them uncapped. I need to go back in with the dark. I lost my darks. You can do a technique with the brush markers called flicking, where you just kind of go in there and you flick the dark into the lighter color, and if the ink is still wet, they'll just kind of bleed together, and it works really well. Reds tend to be tough to blend, blues and purples as well, but this coral red, because it has a warm undertone, it's a little bit easier. I don't know why. It's warmer colors blend easier in markers, warmer undertoned colors. Blues, purples, they're the worst. They're so hard to blend. And there's not that many shades of purple, I've noticed, or blues, it seems like, in markers. And and oftentimes with purples especially, and pinks too, your cooler pinks, they look different from wet to dry. They shift, so you have to make sure you let your swatches dry before you choose your other colors to go with it, because they could look a lot different. But I'm just going to put around, color the rest of these. If you have an overturned petal, you want to do that with your lightest color and then shade it underneath, like that's an overturned petal, just keep that light. But then next to an overturned petal, you probably want to go in with one of your darker colors and blend it out. But coloring is fun, so take your time, enjoy yourself. And the only other thing here is just the center. You can do whatever colors you like. I would do different shades of yellow. I'm going to start with this buttercream. You could actually just leave it like that. That's a really pretty color. Buttercup yellow. But I'm also just going to tap in some dark. These are sketch markers. That's another brand that I like. They're fairly new on the scene. There's lots of good markers. You were spoiled for choice. Alright, so I'm going to finish this up, but look how it looks so far. I think it's just so ladylike and pretty and soft and vintage. Yes, finish this up and then we'll put the card together. Okay, I've got a lot of options here. So this is our piece we just colored. I think it's so pretty. I tore this out of one of my little booklets. I have these just in collage paper booklets. And then I found this little tag that I thought was pretty. And I also went through my crinkled seam binding, which is just rayon, 100% rayon seam binding ribbon, and I spray it with reinkers or dyes or whatever, and I crinkle it up and I let it dry so I get these beautiful crinkles to it. So basically just kind of looking through stuff that I have and seeing what I thought would work well, and now we get to the kind of the collage portion. I also took the stamp and put it on a block. It's just a sewing stamp, but I think that looks really nice when I want to put some things together. So let's see what we have here. I want to make sure I stay in frame. This is the biggest thing. So again, it's like rocks in a jar. We want to put our biggest thing in first. And I'm just kind of debating, like, do I want it over to the side all the way? Do I want to have some of that little edge showing? This, I would like to put some seam binding on. I went and picked some colors that were colors that I'd have in the design. I like this kind of vintage blue color. I thought about maybe putting a couple colors in there, but I think that would be too much. I think just one is good. So I'm just going to go ahead and tie it on and trim it. And I mean, I even saved the smallest of scraps of this because I find that often just having a little bit really goes a long way on a project. And then, like, you know, every once in a while I might be making some jewelry or something, and I'll be making a bunch of like cords for the jewelry, or I'll be making bubble wands or something like for a craft fair, and I'll just make extra and I'll throw it in my bin, and yeah, so I always have this like ever evolving bin of that. I'll probably trim it a little bit more, but you know, you can always trim it more, you can't always untrim it. And because that's my focal point, I think I might want to have that one on top. I also have this, which I think is kind of pretty, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure where I want that to go. Maybe there, and I could stamp across the top edge. Maybe tear the edges. And then I'll do the stamping, but I'll do that stamping on a scrap because I don't want to like stamp it right on my project in case I don't like it. I'm not sure if I like that or not. Oh, I kind of like it maybe up on the top, anchored to the top there. And I basically just kind of piece things around. I see what I can get to fit. One thing I like adding are these little postage stamps. They're washi tape. The thing that's nice about washi elements is that they are, well, let me put a little double-sided tape under this first. They are translucent, so you don't lose. It's hard to cover up. You know, it's like you almost don't want to cover up the background because remember, we spent 20 minutes on that background and I just think it's so pretty. But so some of the background shows through when we use the washi tape style element. And I think clustering elements like this looks really nice too. Sometimes I'll do cards where I have like a bookmark that can be taken off. I usually will do that for Maisie's cards because she is an avid reader. But for this one, even with a 5x7, I still managed to, whoops, I want that down a little bit lower, I think. I still managed to run out of some real estate here. All right, I think I like that. I think I will use foam tape to pop that up a little bit. I mean, we spent some time coloring that too, so it's nice to let the elements we spend time on really show. I haven't decided what I want to do for the sentiment though. I was hoping I had I thought I had and I really should look into investing in one. I thought I had a wax seal that had happy birthday on it, but I don't. I have like a hello and a thanks. I don't have a happy birthday wax seal. So that would be something that I might want to invest in the future on, because I think that would be really handy. And I love the look of wax seals on a project. I just think it's so pretty and elegant. And I joke with Maisie because she can be kind of wild, rough around the edges, kind of wolfy, and but she loves this like vintage academia looking stuff. And she is quite a bookworm too. So, but she's also very sporty and also very wolfy. She said to me the other day, I'm not as wolfy as I used to be, Mom. She's my little wolf. Oh my goodness. Using a needle tool would be really handy for picking the backs off these. I really like these Dollar Tree needle tools because you get two for $1.25 now, but they're just seeing if they can it's hard to tell whether you've taken the backs off of them or not. Because these are not as sticky as like the 3M. This is the low profile stuff. I'm not sure if it's still available because a lot of stuff in the stamping stores kind of come and go as trends come and go. But this was the adhesive from Simon Says Stamp. I'm gonna overlap. I like to make sure that I don't have any things lined right up. So like we've got that line, but I have this out just a little bit and that in just a little bit. You want to avoid those tangents when you're designing because they they don't look that great. Now let's see, do I want to do another postage stamp? Let's see, I think I want to do a skeleton leaf. Oh, you know what? I can do that blue. I've got one that's that baby blue color. Now these are fragile, so you want to make sure that you put them, try to find someplace they can kind of tuck under, and you don't want them hanging off the edge because they will have some problems. I also have some wax melted and ready to go, and I do have a handle. So what did I do with that? I had a couple options. For goodness sake. Here they are. I have two flowers. They both kind of look like peonies. I think that one might look a little bit more like a peony. So just trying to figure out exactly where I want it to go because I think I'll have it overlap that Rolodex card and have it down here because I really want the wax to anchor the bottom of it. And then I might bring in the birthday element on top right there. So this is something you can't undo. Once you put that down, this is where it's going to go. I have some kind of like a rose gold and some gold there, and I have about five little beads because I want to make sure I had plenty. And this is kind of a tricky, it's a large wax melt, takes a little bit extra. So I'm going to let this cool off. And when we come back, we'll figure out what we want to do about the sentiment, where we want to put it, and then we'll be finished. All right, let's finish it up. Let's take our seal off. Oh, that looks nice. I'll just pick it up so you can see. It's got a very subtle flower there. Very pretty. And then I found this just little scrap of green that had like a little knot on it, and I thought, ooh, I can put that right there between the little legs or little peg holes of the Rolodex. So what I did was I got my little tiny glue gun because I figured this would be probably my best shot at being able to, I'm going to wipe off the extra on there, being able to put down a tiny bit of glue, and I'm just going to go, I'm actually just going to do a line and hope that it's not too messy, and quickly put that in there, and I'm just going to try to tuck the ends under the Rolodex card there. This is going to be one of those awkward things I'll probably have to do off camera because it's really difficult to do stuff like that on camera. So that's what I'll do there. I'll tuck those ends under the Rolodex there. And I'm also going to think I tore my leaf though, unfortunately. That's all right, I'll do that after. I'll just tuck that under. And then I've got this, I just stamped and embossed the sending you birthday wishes, and I took a couple other little scraps. I'm going to adhere some ribbon behind there, and then I'm just going to stick it down there. So let's see, let's just do a little bit of glue on the back there. Oh, I lost the glue stick out of the back of this gun. I am not a fan of that glue gun, but it will get the job done today. And let me see if I want to do 2 ribbons back there, or just 1. Let's see what one's going to look like. I should have probably done this first, and then I could have had the wax seal over all of it. That's just with 1. Let me see about putting another ribbon back there and see what that looks like. I don't think I like the 2 ribbons. Let me just maybe just lay it down differently. No, I'm not going to use that ribbon, but I'm going to use this one. Just have it go like that. And that way I can kind of trap down the that leaf as well. That is a sloppy glue gun. I don't know if I'm missing something about it or what. You know, a little bit of time before the glue melts to adjust it just so. I want to tuck that under there, but I'm also afraid of poking a hole in my ribbon. Well, just to give you the idea, I'm going to tuck the loose ends underneath the Rolodex file there. And there's that. I think I might decorate the inside with just a few little trinkets there, maybe. I think I have some, yes, I can use some ledger paper or something. I've got these interesting little, oh, this one would be pretty probably. These interesting little papers I can do on the inside. I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive on the back. Decorating the inside of an envelope is a great way to use those leftovers from a project. And then I'll put a couple of little postage stamp things in there because those are so pretty. This tape gun is Advanced Tape Glider by Scotch. And then I get the generic refill, so it's pretty economical. What did I just say? Oh yeah, I need some of these little postage stamps. Or maybe just one. I think that looks good. All right, and there we have it. There is our custom-made birthday card. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it inspires you to use your stash and make something beautiful. Thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you liked it. And until next time, happy crafting. Bye. Oh, wait, there was one more thing I wanted to do, and that was to add some little accents with this this little Stardust glitter pen. I thought that would be really kind of pretty on our focal image here. This is a clear gel pen that just has a little bit of glittery ink in it, and it's just, I think it's just such a pretty, like, dainty accent that you can add to a card. You can also accent with colored pencil if you don't have this. Or you could even use some white. I got my white gel pen out too. I thought I might use that, but I don't know. I kind of just like the little bit of accent with the gel, with the glitter gel pen. Like you can do the edges of the petals And it just gives you a really pretty little glisten. You could also use a Wink of Stella pen because we used alcohol markers that shouldn't bother the alcohol markers. It shouldn't make them run or anything. If you did want to do some little white highlights, you could as well. You can help just give a little pop against the background. It's not done. Your card's not done until you say it's done. And you can take as long as you want on a card. You can do quick cards, you can do slow cards. It's up to you. It's part of the creative process. It's wonderful because it's art that gets to make other people feel happy too. Well, I guess a lot of art could make other people feel happy, but you get to enjoy creating it and then you get to enjoy giving it. There. I think that looks nice. Now I'm going to call it done. I think it's pretty, and I think my daughter's going to love it. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Happy crafting.